The celestial extent, intercelestial, relating to a single celestial system and its natural satellites occurring or situated within a celestial system. Extracelestial, relating to celestial worlds and their natural satellites within a single shared star system occurring between celestial worlds and their natural satellites within a shared multi star solar system. Introduction. The celestial is the extent of the tectonic as it regress. Habitats and ecosystem require foundations. The tectonic is their foundation. Likewise, within the ontology, the tectonic also requires a foundation. Tectonic is derived directly from plate tectonics in the context of continents. The foundation for continents is the celestial. At this scale, the two become indistinguishable, unlike the tectonic, where the physical topology constrains international interaction, manifesting the celestial scale interaction. Instead, the unification of a single unified celestial government and social interaction is the foundation of the celestial scale. The celestial scale encompasses the primary home world and its natural satellites. When governments unify all the resources of a world and international governments are dissolved, replaced with intercelestial governments, we begin to describe the celestial civilization scale. Satellites may seek their independence and self-govern akin to international government of the tectonic scale. When the inhabitants of a celestial world and all the satellites, both natural and artificial, in orbit around it share common single unified government, that is the highest scale of the celestial scale civilization. Celestial filament extent. The celestial is an astronomical object consisting of a spheroid of matter held together and shaped by its own gravity, also known as planets or worlds. The more mass a celestial has, the larger it is. There are four broad categories for categorizing and organizing the celestial. The primary category is the Trinity worlds, the giants, and lastly the anti-worlds. The celestial is constrained by its mass to small, and it won't be spherical to large, and its core will undergo fusion and be unstable. Due to this, we describe the celestial based on its chemical composition, the ratio of the solids, liquids, and gaseous it comprises of, not necessarily based on the concise chemical composition. A celestial world with an abundance of liquid water has sufficient heat either within its core or from its parent star to keep the water upon its surface in a liquid state. If it were too cold, then the surface would be covered in solid ice to warm and the water would be vapor in the atmosphere of the world. Furthermore, if the mass is low and the gravity weak, the water would simply boil away and escape the planet. The celestial has as a part of its habitability and ecosystem biospheres. These are known as the lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. There is more complexity at play, but at its most simplistic, the biosphere of a planet not taking into consideration the chemical composition and matter state which are naturally present on the celestial. The solid state is the lithosphere, the liquid state is the hydrosphere, and the gaseous state is the atmosphere. When all three matter states are present on the celestial world, we say that it is a trinity world. Most rocky worlds are trinity, despite how rare it is to find liquid water. When a world is comprised of only one of the three types, we refer to it as a giant with disregard to its physical mass. There are litho giant solids, aquatic giant liquids, and gas giant gaseous. Lastly, when a celestial is lacking one of the three matter states, we call it an anti and is named after the matter state which it is missing. Anti-litho, anti-aquatic, anti-gaseous. The most massive of these celestial can fall into the category of being giants, but to avoid confusion, giant is not part of the name used for their category of classification. When celestial form out of the accretion of the stellar system, it can form with a natural satellite, or over time it may capture a natural satellite. Satellites in orbit around a parent celestial cannot have a total mass which exceeds the mass of the celestial, and natural satellites share in-kind composition similar to the celestial. External tectonic regress. Giant to brown dwarf. The two factors that define a celestial is its hydrostatic equilibrium, which give it a mostly spherical shape, and its lack of stellar nuclear synthesis, which is a byproduct of its chemical composition and mass, giving rise to nuclear fission, the primary quality of a stellar extent. The more massive a celestial extent is, the closer its composition is to that of a star. The most massive celestial are classified as giants of all the giants. The gas giants comprise mostly of hydrogen and not so much of hydrogen and helium, allow for the formation of brown dwarf. Brown dwarf are celestial gas giants which have enough mass to ignite fission and glow dimly. Brown dwarfs do not qualify as stellar bodies because they are not sufficiently massive enough to sustain hydrogen fusion on the main sequence. Medial tectonic regress. Moons and their lunars. A moon is a natural satellite directly in orbit around a celestial. The term moon does not apply to the accretion rings of gaseous rocks, metals, or ice which are found in orbit around celestial worlds. Accretion of this kind are treated as a single satellite extent known as celestial rings. Interior tectonic regress. Luna and their satellites. A luna is a name given to a natural satellite in orbit around another satellite. Planets have moons and rings. Rings comprise of gaseous rocks and ice, while a ring is an accretion of a potential moon satellite in orbit around a planet. It must be understood that body regress of its size is defined as a satellite because objects so small can be held in orbit around a massive celestial world. It can be argued that there are ranges of stability between moons and their parent celestial body where the moon is able to retain a natural satellite in orbit around it. To describe this, we use the term lunar. This also applies to artificial satellites which a civilization might build and place in orbit around natural celestial bodies. Tectonic filament regress. Circumstellar and circumcelestial disk. Protoplanets, planets, steamers, astronautical vehicles, vessels, crafts, artificial satellites, and space. A circumstellar disk is a tall, pancake, or ring-shaped accumulation of matter composed of gas dust, planetesimals, asteroids, or collision fragments in orbit around a protostellar extent. In contrast, a circumcelestial disk is a rotating circumstellar disk of dense gas and dust surrounding a young newly formed star. In the context of this body of work, the circumcelestial disk is the largest regress of the tectonic, out of which a celestial systems are formed. Within the accretion around a protostellar body, gravitation influences give rise to tectonic scale forces, out of which protoplanets and planetesimals form. These massive bodies form the regress of the circumcelestial disk. The celestial extent is formed out of the regress of tectonic scales, protoplanets giving rise to planetesimals. Planetesimals form the foundation of celestial worlds, clearing their orbital path around their protostar of solid, liquids, and gaseous as it both orbits and grows. The more mass they gain, the further into the circumstellar disk their gravitational influence can reach. During this accretion, celestial worlds will form with their natural satellites moons. The celestial extent. The mythological creation of the celestial extent. In classic mythology, the celestial is the domain of the Ubabin, deities, gods, and goddesses. The demigods, half mortal, half gods, descended primarily from the Olympian gods. The celestial describe extraterrestrial and interdimensional beings. The Uber being is a concept originating in the fields of science fiction, futurology, contemporary art, and philosophy that means a person or entity that exists in a state beyond being sentient sapient being. The concept addresses questions of ethics and justice, language and trans-species communication, social system, and the intellectual aspirations of interdisciplinary. The empirical cosmology of the celestial extent: 1 times 10 raised to the power 3 to 1 times 10 raised to the power 10. The celestial ontology is between 1 times 10 raised to the power 3 to 1 times 10 raised to the power 10 meter in volume, defined as a regress. While rare, it's possible for a single being to embody as its standard unit of measurement less than 1 times 10 raised to the power 10 meters. If a single being's standard unit of measurement exceeds this, they would manifest as the stellar. At the smallest of scale, a single celestial being would embody 1 times 10 raised to the power 3 meters in volume. If a single being's standard unit of measurement is less than or smaller than this, then they would manifest as the tectonic. The celestial is a regress of the planetesimals. Below the celestial scale of 999 km, we describe the planetesimals. At 1000 km, the celestial begins. The celestial scale is between 1000 km to 150,000 km, and the extent of the celestial influences is between 100,000 km to 150 million kilometers. The celestial is comprised of complex abiotic biosphere. There are 4 primary categories of biospheres: the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the cryosphere, and the lithosphere. The process out of which celestial formation occurs is hostile to nearly all forms of life. Any living entities evolved enough to thrive in the abiotic habitats of planetary formation surely could not sustain their existence after such processes slow and stop altogether. After the formation of the celestial extent, the celestial processes will give rise to weather and natural destruction. The various biosphere of the celestial extent will begin to mix in a complex way. To include the external energy of a stellar body, the abiotic foundation will give rise to a stable biotic biosphere. The Mythocene multiverse cosmology of the celestial extent. Within the context of the Mythocene multiverse cosmology, the celestial extent embodies astronautical logistic and infrastructure in the form of orbital and slower than light reaction mass craft. This definition is embodied within the astronomical context, giving rise to the celestial in its terrestrial or extraterrestrial sense. Less obvious within the context of multiverse cosmology is what is fully implied by the celestial extent. Alternate worlds fall fully within the context of the celestial, inheriting and taking on an extraterrestrial meaning within the context of the celestial extent. What is implied is that a celestial extent or world in this context embodies astronautical logistic and infrastructure in the form of portals, gateways, wormholes, or inter-extra, alternate, parallel dimensional craft. Time machine and any vehicle, vessels, or craft capable of traveling through the alternate interparallel dimensional threshold. An extraterrestrial is said to be a being from another planet. Within the context of this body of work, correlative implies celestial world orbiting the same parent stellar body. Alternate celestial worlds are said to be parallel to each other separated by an interdimensional medium, giving rise to interdimensional being contrast against the notion of extraterrestrial beings. whereas extraterrestrial are from different celestial worlds which are correlative. Interdimensional can be said to be from the same celestial extent, whereas the regress are non correlative in essence, giving rise to the idea of alternate worlds. The celestial citizen. The mythology of the celestial citizen. In classic mythology, the celestial is the domain of the Uber deities, gods, and goddesses, to include divine prophets, the anointed, and sorcerer drawing divine magic form the deity that they serve. These beings have strength to rival the gods themselves while still being subject to their mercy. The Olympian gods relative to each other were more or less equal. Conflict would be a state of perpetual stagnation until a demigod champion was added to the playing field, shifting the balance of power in the favor of the god the hero chooses to obey. In most cases, the hero would choose to serve the greater good of humanity, and the deity whose ideology most aligned with the demigod cause would benefit from his efforts. More religion than mythology, the mythos of pharaohs describe the ruler of Egypt and by extension his queen and offspring as direct descendants of God incarnate. This endowed the pharaohs with the right to command all the citizens of Egypt. The citizens viewed each pharaoh as God incarnate, and from this belief or understanding served the pharaohs, obeying his command. In Christianity, the prophet Jesus Christ was said to also be God in the flesh, taking on a demigod like person, being born directly from a mortal woman and a divine father. The mercies that Christ was said to perform can be perceived as a manifestation of his connection to divinity. The empirical celestial citizen. The unification of all international border and the elimination of theism ideology. Once the sentient being of a celestial ecology form a symbiosis within their kind and between all species, the empirical celestial is described. Supernatural ability and power may never manifest, but preternatural influence, forces, laws, and constraints and constants may become commonplace as the technology which shaped the tectonic is transcended, giving way to the celestial extent. The celestial citizen will have extreme adversity to overcome for the unified civilization, but at the individual citizen extent, there will be little to no adversity that will directly cause pain, anguish, or discomfort for the celestial citizens. The celestial citizen will have access to absolute wealth and seemingly endless resources and energy. The Mituset Multiverse Cosmological Celestial Citizen. The celestial is an ontology of the contrasting encompassing extent beyond the regress of tectonic. The monotheistic God is all powerful, all knowing, and present everywhere within the celestial. The celestial is the extent where within extra, alternate, or parallel tectonic exists. These tectonic to include celestial are equated to being divine entity, inheriting from their nature the maternal attributes of goddesses. The ontology of tectonic form the foundation for the pantheon of polytheism. They are all siblings, sisters, and daughters of their maternal parent, ontology celestial, where an ontological tectonic is a place, a divine celestial being governed by celestial divinity and known as celestial being, androgynous gods, paternal, or goddesses maternal. Their nature is alternate and parallel to the ontological tectonic. The celestial citizen applies to biosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, atmosphere, and satellites, and scale beyond the stellar nucleus synthesis. The celestial scale is a range of hydrostatic equilibrium above the tectonic but below the brown dwarf. Within the context of my 2-cent multiverse cosmology, inequality caused by discrimination is the unifying factor holding the tectonic back from becoming a celestial civilization. At its core, inequality and discrimination are an indirect emergent quality of the ideology of family. The elimination of the family and as a byproduct elimination of theism ideology is what will primarily shape the celestial citizen. A single unified global government, a single unified global government and economy and a single unified global government and economy and a symbiosis between the ecology and the economy is what transcends the tectonic and give rise to the celestials. The mythology of the celestial civilization. In the context of the paranormal, in the context of the paranormal, Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind is the best example of mythological celestial civilization, the ability to travel to other celestial worlds other than our own. In mythology, other worlds or realms are visited, but in their context, they transcend what is defined by celestial, if I'm being honest. Heaven, as an example, is a vastly superior extent relative to the ideal of the celestial. In the comic book Constantine, heaven and earth were alternate and parallel regresses of earth. They were the same volume of the earth with a different nature and quality, all three sharing correlative within the same extent. Furthermore, most mythology describe an ancient or primitive time period which predated astrological technology. Only those ancient of worlds which possessed interdimensional travel between alternate reality or universe would adequately describe mythological celestial civilization. The empirical civilization, the empirical celestial civilization. The technology, logistic, and infrastructure for endeavor celestial citizens to traverse cheaply, safely, any and everywhere within their celestial extent to include their moons and lunar, as well as building and maintaining artificial astrological orbital stations, is the emergent foundation out of which the celestial civilization is manifested from. Celestial citizens will travel from their celestial citizens will travel from their celestial worlds to their celestial moon because there is somewhere on their moon to go, because there is some reason to go there. Lastly, the single most important quality of the celestial civilization is a unified effort, directly or indirectly, for the celestial citizens to expand out from their celestial extent and become an interplanetary species through the application of astronautical logistic and infrastructure. The Mytusent Multiverse Cosmological Celestial Civilization. The hallmark of the celestial scale, speaking within the context of the tectonic extent, the celestial scale is the logistic and infrastructure to allow every individual within realistic limits the capacity to achieve their own personal endeavors. Citizens have the freedom to truly choose the endeavor which is best for them. Their lives are not wasted on remedial pursuits in the service of another citizen's vision or endeavor, through freedom to choose and true pursuit of happiness without sacrificing personal prosperity. What drives the celestial scale is a unified drive to obtain transcends from the celestial and become a multicelestial species. In the context of Mytusent multiverse cosmology, the celestial citizen is able to become an extra celestial civilization by utilizing interdimensional technology alongside astronautical logistic and infrastructure.